All right, let me ask you something that might sound a little strange. Have you ever driven something and just immediately thought, yeah, this is it. This is the one. Like everything else you've driven before suddenly feels like a rough draft. Because that's genuinely what happened to me the first time I got seriously acquainted with the BMW X5. And I don't say that lightly. I've been around enough cars to know the difference between something that impresses you in the moment and something that actually changes your reference point permanently. Today we're going deep on the 2026 BMW X5. Powertrain, exterior design, interior, in my straight-up honest take on whether this thing deserves the money and the hype. Let's get into it. And real quick before we dive, if you're new here, welcome to Luxury Motor. We're just a crew of genuine car enthusiasts, keeping it completely real with you every single video. No corporate talking points, no paid opinions, just honest perspective from people who genuinely love this stuff. Subscribe and come ride with us. I promise you won't regret it. Okay, X5, let's go. So here's where I want to start. Not with horsepower numbers, not with 0 to 60 times, but with a question I think actually matters more than either of those things. What does it feel like to live with this car? Because I've learned over the years that the spec sheet and the real-world ownership experience can be two very different conversations. And with a vehicle at this price point, that gap matters enormously. What I've come to understand about the X5 after spending real time with it is that BMW engineered this thing to feel inevitable. Like every decision they made in the design process was the only logical conclusion rather than one choice among many. That's rare. That's genuinely difficult to achieve. And in 2026, the X5 does it better than it ever has. Now let's talk about what's powering this thing, because the 2026 X5 lineup is genuinely one of the most thoughtfully constructed powertrain ranges in the segment. Your entry point is the xDrive 40i, and I want to be clear that calling this the entry-level X5 is almost misleading because there's nothing entry-level about what you get here. A 3-liter inline 6-cylinder turbocharged engine producing 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. I've experienced a lot of inline 6-cylinders across different manufacturers, and I've grown to see BMW's B58 engine as genuinely one of the finest internal combustion engines being produced right now. It revs cleanly, delivers power in this linear, almost musical way, and sounds absolutely right under hard acceleration. 0 to 60 in around 4.6 seconds for a full-size luxury SUV. Think about that for a second. The xDrive 50e is the plug-in hybrid variant, and honestly, from my point of view, this might be the most intelligently conceived version in the entire lineup. That setup pairs a 3-liter inline 6 with an electric motor for a combined system output of 483 horsepower. You're getting around 40 to 50 miles of pure electric range, which I've noticed covers the overwhelming majority of daily driving for most X5 buyers without ever firing the combustion engine. Then, on longer runs, the full powertrain comes alive and you've got all the range confidence in the world. This taught me that the best PHEVs aren't compromises. They're genuinely the most sophisticated way to own a performance vehicle in 2026. And then there's the M60i, a 4.4-liter twin-turbocharged V8, 530 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Look, I used to think big SUVs couldn't genuinely be exciting performance vehicles. That was before I drove something with this engine in this package. Now I understand that statement was just ignorance on my part. The M60i is flat out one of the most viscerally satisfying vehicles you can buy at any price point, not just in its class, but anywhere. 8-speed automatic transmission standard across the range, xDrive all-wheel drive is standard, and adaptive air suspension with electronic damper control. That air suspension deserves a specific call-out because it's not just a comfort feature, it actively transforms the character of the vehicle. In comfort mode, the X5 floats over imperfect surfaces with this effortless, almost surreal composure. Switch to sport, and the whole car tightens up, drops slightly, and becomes something you genuinely want to attack a mountain road with. I believe that range of personality in a single vehicle is one of the X5's most underrated qualities. The exterior design of the 2026 X5 is where I want to spend some real time, because I've noticed that the X5's visual presence in this generation operates on a different level than most of its competition. Up front, the signature kidney grille is wide and dominant, but elegantly framed by these laser LED headlights that have a precision to their graphic that communicates serious money without being flashy about it.
There's a confidence to the X5's front end that comes from proportion rather than decoration. Everything is exactly as large as it needs to be, and no larger. The lower air intakes are wide and structured, reinforcing that planted, wide-track stance that makes the X5 look like it means business from 50 yards away. The side profile is where things get genuinely elegant. The X5's proportions are just right. Long hood, well-placed greenhouse, enough rear overhang to feel substantial without looking ungainly. The body surfacing has this quality that I've come to appreciate more the longer I spend with the car. Subtle curves that reveal depth and tension in different lighting conditions. This isn't a car that looks the same at noon and sunset. It has layers. Looking back at when I first saw the 2026 updates in person, I realized BMW made some very precise refinements to the details that don't scream for attention, but collectively elevate the whole visual impression. The wheels are spectacular across the range, from the standard 19-inch options all the way up to the 22-inch M Sport items that fill the arches with almost aggressive confidence. The rear end ties everything together cleanly, wide, assertive, with those horizontal LED taillights that emphasize the X5's breadths. The dual exhaust configuration on all variants finishes the rear with the right amount of purposeful visual weight. It's a rear end that looks expensive because it is expensive, and BMW doesn't try to disguise that fact. Inside is where the 2026 X5 goes from impressive to genuinely extraordinary, and I don't use that word loosely. BMW's panoramic curved display dominates the dashboard, with a 12.3-inch driver display flowing into a 14.9-inch central touchscreen in that now signature curved housing. Running iDrive 9, the system is fast, logical, and genuinely intuitive. Voice recognition understands conversational commands without requiring specific phrasing. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard. What I've noticed is how seamlessly all the tech integrates without making the interior feel like a science experiment. It's sophisticated without being intimidating. The materials throughout are flat-out exceptional. Real open-pore wood options, genuine metal trim pieces, merino leather upholstery on higher trims that has this softness and quality that you genuinely feel every single time you get in the car. I've experienced luxury interiors across basically every price segment, and I've grown to see tactile quality as the ultimate honest signal of a manufacturer's intentions. The X5's interior communicates those intentions clearly and confidently. Front seats are masterclass level, ventilated, heated, massaging on higher trims, with this precise adjustment range that makes finding your perfect driving position completely effortless. Over time, I've learned that truly great seats are the ones you stop thinking about because they just work. The X5 seats disappear in the best possible way. Second row space is genuinely impressive. Real adults with real legroom and headroom, rear climate vents, USB-C ports throughout, and available heated rear seats. The optional third row makes the X5 genuinely family-capable in a way that its footprint wouldn't necessarily suggest from the outside. Cargo space starts at 33.9 cubic feet behind the second row and expands to 72.3 cubic feet fully loaded flat. Those are numbers you can actually use. The driver assistance suite in 2026 is comprehensive and impressively mature in how it operates. Highway assistant with hands-free driving capability on compatible roads, active lane change assist, reversing assistant that memorizes your last 50 miles of driving and can reverse the vehicle back along that path automatically, and a surround view system with 3D visualization that makes parking a genuinely stress-free experience regardless of the space you're dealing with. I believe the measure of good driver assistance technology is whether it builds your confidence or erodes it, and the X5 suite firmly does the former. Alright, here's my real talk on the 2026 BMW X5. Should you buy it? If you're shopping in the full-size premium SUV space and you're not cross-shopping the X5 against whatever else is on your list, I genuinely feel like you're doing yourself a disservice. This is the benchmark, not one of the benchmarks, the benchmark. From my point of view, the xDrive 50e PHEV is the version I'd be pointing most buyers toward. That combination of daily electric efficiency, exceptional performance when you need it, and the refinement of that inline-six hybrid system represents the most complete expression of what a luxury SUV should be in 2026. You get the best of every world without meaningfully compromising any of them. The M60i is for the buyer who simply wants the most power, the most performance, the most statement. And on those terms, it absolutely delivers without apology. What I've come to understand after really sitting with the X5 is that it justifies its price in a way that very few vehicles at any price point actually do.